Hey guys, Rich Lopez with the Drop Time Traditions Podcast, episode 160. Wow, 160 episodes so far. My guest this evening is Mr. Jim Willems from, I believe, Colorado, correct?
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Well, that's even better. So I guess you know Noble Sinclair.
Yes, I do. Haven't seen
Yeah,
him in a couple of decades, but yeah, I know him.
yeah. So before we begin, I just want to acknowledge the supporters of the show. Stickbow Country Custom Arrows, Traps Feather Rests, Traditional Bowhunter Magazine, um, Sauk Trail Archery, stickbowsupplies.com, Whiskey City Trad Gear or WCTrad.com, Jessie Savage Blacksmith.com, traditionaljunk.com. If you need a good used bow, reach out to Kevin over there. He'll hook you up. St. Joe River Custom Bow Company or St. Joe River Bow Company. TheEthicalPredator.com, and lastly, StickbowHuntsMX.com, of which I was there last week chasing javelinas. Mexico is a magical land. Have you ever been, Jim?
Yeah, about every year,
Okay.
sometimes more than once a year. So yeah, good friend Mike Luck and I have a lease in Mexico near Hermosillo, and
Okay.
be 5 years on this lease coming up. So yeah, I spend most of January in Mexico.
It's so beautiful there. It's funny because I live in Florida, so when I flew in there, this is the second year for me. I flew into Dallas, not a problem, and then flew into Mexico, not a problem. But coming back, Mexico was great, but Dallas, oh my God, the TSA's there, they're like monkey handlers with your gear. I mean, not the greatest experience in the world, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I get it. I'm fortunate enough. I'm about 740 miles from the ranch. So I drive down. I take a trailer and four wheelers and ground blinds and tree stands and food, and enough gear for six guys for 3 weeks. And so I kind of manage the hunt and get everything down there. And it's good to be able to drive.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, Jim, just give us a brief. See, I'm hungry. A brief background. Born and raised, your upbringing. Tell us about that.
Okay, so I was born in Kansas, right in the center of the state. My dad took over the family farm, took it over from my granddad in about 1970, and so I grew up on the farm, about 10 miles out of town. Hunting and fishing and trapping was a big deal for me and my brothers. I have two brothers and one sister. And I took over the family farm when I was still a senior in high school. It just wasn't big enough for a family, and I thought, well, I can make it work being a single guy. And I messed around with that for 7 years and slowly went broke. And the good thing about it is I was there really in the early part of bow hunting whitetails in Kansas. Long before non-residents can hunt. So I got to experience some really good and different deer hunting in Kansas, way different from what it is now. I wouldn't say it's really better. I don't know that it was better then, but way less pressure. We basically had nobody to deal with. You could either get permission or you couldn't, and you weren't fighting other people for permission. So that was great. But went broke farming and moved to Farmington, New Mexico, just before I got married in 1987. And it's a big argument between me and my wife. She swears I moved here for the big game bow hunting, which is probably true, but also moved here to for one, I just needed to get off the farm. It's one of those deals I was going to keep fiddle farting around with it for my entire life, and never make a good living, and have two jobs, farming and working, and just decided it's time for something new. So um, moved to Farmington to run a sod farm. Stayed in the farming industry, but my first winter there, since the sod farm was seasonal, my first winter I got a job with an electrician, local electrician, and my background while I was in Kansas. I did all kinds of things, but one of the things I did was I worked for a home builder. I worked in the oil field. I was a welder. I was an auto mechanic. I was an electrician. I wasn't an electrician, but I was an electrician's helper. But that got me a job in the oil field. Um, oil field automation in 1987, kind of in its infancy. They were putting radios on gas wells and monitoring them from the office in town. And everybody thought it was just voodoo. It was hard to understand, and it was just one of those things that I could understand. And kind of took off from there and did that, working for another guy until 91. And then, he got in a little bit of trouble and lost a major contract, and I was the manager for that contract. So suddenly became unemployed and started a business, and a week later had 5 employees, and my word, had no idea what we were getting into. Looking back, I sure wish I could have got some better advice. But anyhow, we started a electrical contracting business and just managed to keep it afloat the first year. Like they say, most small businesses die the first year, and I understand why. You just don't have enough money to get over the hump. But anyhow, we got over the hump, slowly grew it and grew it, and then had some, disposable income. So then we started a supply house for oil field automation and grew that. And, at one point, my wife and I ran the businesses. And at one point we had offices in 5 states and 100 employees. And, the stress was getting to me in my mid 40s. And when I was 46 years old, well, we sold the supply house when I was 44, and sold the service company when I was 46, and mostly been unemployed ever since then. Do a little odd jobs here and there, and I have a little taxidermy shop, which I haven't done much lately, and I have a little welding shop, which, other than tree stands, haven't done much lately. But that's the story of my life. Became unemployed at 46 years old and really started hunting a lot at that point.
Yeah, I've taken notice. I've been a friend of yours on social media for a couple of years now. I was like, my God, look at these animals he's racking up. So you're 63, going to be 64 in May, correct?
That is correct.
So you've been unemployed, basically / retired since you were 46?
Yeah, 17 years, coming up on
Wow.
18. Yeah.
My God, that's fantastic.
It doesn't suck. I'm here to tell you.
Well, no, but it's just good for young folk to hear that, hey, you work hard and it pays off.
Absolutely.
You just got to be
Absolutely.
smart about it.
There still is an American dream. The American dream is you can pull yourself up from nothing, and that's what we did. Literally, when we moved from Kansas, I had $44,000 worth of debt. My wife had college loan payments, and she had an education to show for it, and I had 2 old junk trucks and $30,000 worth of real estate. And over the next 3 or 4 years, we pretty much paid it off, got out of debt, and that was just journeyman wages. She was working at a bank or an insurance company, and I was just a journeyman electrician.
Yeah, I know that side of things. I was a journeyman graphic imaging engineer for National Geographic until I was replaced by a Macintosh. So I had to reinvent myself. So I'm 66, going to be 66. I'm still working for another couple of months, and I'm an insurance adjuster for I look at damages on vehicles, and that's what I do. But who got you into archery and bow hunting? Who was the mentor?
Well, that would have been my older brother. My older brother Dan. He's 3 years older than I am. So and we both took the same path. So in Kansas, you couldn't apply for a deer tag till you were 16. Mm-hmm. And we grew up on the farm. There were no deer on our farm. Fantastic pheasant hunting, fantastic. But I didn't see my first deer in Kansas till I was 14 years old. And the population was so low let's just say in the 70s. My dad was a landowner, and half the tags went to landowners. He drew 2 tags as a rifle hunter through the decade of the 70s. The first deer season, modern deer season in Kansas was 1965, and very limited for rifle. It was always unlimited for archery, but you had to apply the same day the rifle hunters had to apply, and then you were just guaranteed a tag. So the way it worked, I was a typical kid. We had our little yellow fiberglass bows that we shot when we were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, But then we got into BB guns, and then Dad got us both 22 caliber pellet guns, which were, that's big time there. and of course we lost all our arrows, and we kind of got away from shooting a bow and arrow and really got into guns. Danny and I and my dad. Well, we had a 100-yard bench rest range just outside our house there at the farm, and we would get a new varmint rifle and we'd reload, 5 or 6 different bullets and different powders, and you'd go out and target shoot all day long. So that's how I grew up. Long story short, I drew the deer tag when I was 16. Danny drew it when he was 17, so he drew 4 years before I did, the rifle tag. If you had a rifle tag, you couldn't even apply the next year. You had to set out. Mm-hmm. But you could get a bow tag. And Danny had a good friend who was a bow hunter, same age, 18, 19 years old. And so, yeah, I want to deer hunt, so now I can't get a rifle tag. He bought a bow. He bought the Polar LTD 6-wheel Bear, early compound. And, he killed a buck with it the first year. And so the next year I bought that bow from him. He bought a newer model compound, and I hit a buck in the shoulder the first year and didn't get it. And I was just devastated. I honestly didn't know what happened to it until one of the guys that helped me track it, he killed it with a rifle, about a week later, and had me come look at it and said, okay, it would have survived, and it's, this bow hunting's still okay. But, and moving on, the next year I moved up to a Browning Explorer 2 compound, wood handle, wood limbs, 80 pounds.
Yep.
And I killed a buck with that. I killed my first whitetail with that. And
that was actually a nice bow for back then.
It. Yeah. I killed my buck on the same place Danny killed his first buck. Mm-hmm. And then that year he killed a Pope and Young buck on a different property. And then my second year I killed a Pope and Young buck on this same property where I killed my first one. And then the year after that property came up for sale, and I was farming and ranching and thought I was ready to buy some land. So I bought 80 acres of land when I was 19, just before I turned 20. And that's where I killed my first 2 bucks, my first Pope and Young buck. And through all the hard times, we were able to keep that land, and I still have it, and I still hunt it. So that was great. But then moving on to the trad deal, local guy, Yvonne Johnson, bow-legged cowboy, big old mustache. He'd been shooting, he'd been bow hunting since the first season. He was the guy that kind of got Danny into it. And he loaned us a 68-pound bear grizzly. I don't know what year, haven't seen it for 30, 40 years, so I don't know. So we started shooting that, and then we got to visiting with another mentor, Ken Triplett. He was hardcore hunter, rifle hunter, varmint hunter, and he'd kind of given up bow hunting. The whole family thing, you run out of time and you just don't have time. But anyhow, he'd killed 2 bucks in Kansas, 65, 66 with the bow, and he may have killed the first buck in Kansas legally with the bow. He killed one opening morning in Rice County, and he certainly killed the first one in our area. But anyhow, he was a trad shooter. He gave Danny and he gave me a 57-pound wing chaparral, and then Danny got the 62-pound wing Thunderbird short bow. And
now your chaparral, was that a slim line wing?
I don't think so.
Yeah, they had a slim line, which was very narrow looking, but it was
58
inches. No, okay.
Yeah. But it's a great shooting little bow. And Ken was shooting he had a Red Wing Hunter. That was his hunting bow. But he wouldn't give it up. But anyhow, he showed us that you could actually hit that with a traditional bow. He was confident out to 40, and for us in 1982, that was just unheard of.
Right.
And so, if he can do it, I can do it. So, we basically switched on the spot. We both sold our compound bows, and we both ordered custom Bighorn bows because we had met Fred Asbell, G. Fred, living in Colorado. He always came to the Kansas Bowhunter banquet, had a booth. So he was our other trad mentor, growing up. And so we ordered traditional Bighorn bows. Some of the earlier takedowns, I think mine was 65 and Danny's was 67. And anyhow, really got into it then. And, I gave Yvonne back that 68-pound bear. I don't know if his kids have it now or not. I don't know whatever happened to that, but killed my first buck with a Bighorn takedown in 1983 and haven't looked back. It's been a great journey.
That's 1983. I think I was working for Len Cardinal at the time. He's actually in the Bow Hunting Hall of Fame, but I was working for him. I was just making arrows, making sure the range was clear and all that stuff. And G. Fred came there to do a seminar. And I was so enthralled with him that I put my order in for a Bighorn takedown, 60-inch, 63 pounds at 29 inches. And I was way overbowed because I was shooting a 63-pound compound. So you young fellas out there, do not start out with heavy weight or you will develop the bad habits that 50, 60 years later still haunt me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I went from like 85-pound compound. I was shooting way too heavy. So that 68-pound recurve seemed fine. Mm-hmm. And then I got the bright idea. I bought a pair of limbs, extra set of limbs for my Bighorn at 72 pounds, 52 inches. And my word, I don't know what I was thinking there. I never hunted with them. I ended up selling them, but that was stupid. But
you're a pretty tall guy, so you probably have a long draw.
No, I'm 5'9". I have a 27-inch draw.
Well, you look bigger in the pictures.
Yeah, well, I take good pictures. I do take some.
You
pretty
do.
Good pictures.
They're phenomenal. They're excellent pictures. I love photography.
Yeah.
So your primary bow that you're hunting with now, I believe, is a 56-inch Bighorn, 52
That's
pounds. Correct.
Yeah. So my go on to my trad history. So I hunted with the Bighorn, 65-pound. And that's what I kind of settled in on. And then Danny had a 60-inch one piece that was 65-pound that I really liked. I traded him out of that. I hunted with that for about 7 or 8 years. And then, when King Cavalier took over Bighorn, he made some changes and came out with some just beautiful bows. Mm-hmm. And a buddy of mine won a certificate for half off of a Bighorn bow in the late 90s. And I traded him a dozen XX75 arrows for that coupon, and I ordered that 56-inch, 52-pound Bighorn in '99, and man, I just love it. That's what I hunt with, unless I'm hunting moose or brown bear or bison. It's the 52-pound bow, 27-inch draw, about a 520, 540 grain arrow, depending on how they come out, and fantastic luck with it. Fantastic.
Yeah, I see that. So let me switch gears here. Let's talk about today's generation. We're older bow hunters. We've been around. We've pretty much been there, done that. So with the younger folks, what's lacking in the traditional world, in your opinion?
In my opinion, involvement. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand what they're missing out with the involvement. And by that, I say, the local club, state organization, Pope and Young, Compton's, PBS, all of the above. I got involved with that really pretty early, not really in leadership role, but, I joined the Kansas Bowhunters when I was 18 years old.
Right.
And joined Pope and Young when I was 25. And going to those organization events, just the people you meet and the things you learn. There's those two things. You learn so much about shooting a bow, how to shoot a bow, and how successful people do things. And then, with me being primarily a hunter, there are, the way I look at it, there are archers and there's bow hunters and there's hunting archers. And I would say a significant number of people when I was just starting out were hunting archers. They they were archers more than they were hunters. And I wanted to be a hunter. So I go to the Kansas Bowhunters, talk to anybody who hunted out of state, talk to G. Fred at his booth and anybody else that had a booth, and then started going to Colorado Bowhunters to talk to them. And, I'm doing all this on a nickel. I didn't have any money, but you'd take the weekend and go do it. And then go to the Pope and Young convention. Then you talk to the international guys. And even when I started doing that in 1987, I couldn't afford to go on any of those hunts, but I knew someday I would.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start making contacts and learning and just making notes. And then when you can do it, you know who to call for advice. And son of a gun, if some of them don't invite you to go hunting with them. So
Exactly.
that's it. Involvement.
Now, are you a member of the PBS and Compton's?
Yes.
Are you going to the banquet this coming weekend?
Yes, I am.
Well,
I haven't been to a banquet since 1988.
Which was Grand Junction?
Grand Junction, exactly.
And that's the last one. Well, I was there, and then
Gene
I went
and
to
Barry and Paul Bruner and all of the fun. Man, that was a blast.
Remember when Gene and Barry, they would put their heads together in a pair of jeans and make it look like two butt cheeks?
Yeah. Oh, they were man.
And then I went to the Wheeling, West Virginia, and then life got in the way with kids, divorce, all that stuff. And I went back 2 years ago at the 60th anniversary. I took my present wife, who we're together almost 40 years now, and she had a blast. I had a blast. It was great reconnecting with old friends. It was like I never left.
Yeah.
And so you and I will meet this weekend then.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm kind of the same way. I dropped out in 98, went broke farming, and I had to give up some things.
Yeah.
And I gave up everything, all of my memberships basically, except Pope and Young Club and National Rifle Association.
Right.
Those two I kept. I've always been really dedicated to the Pope and Young Club. I became a major way back and got really involved there. So that has been my bread and butter, but I haven't been involved with PBS since 1988. And Danny and I are going back this year, and it'll be the same old guys doing the same old thing.
Yeah.
Just a little grayer, a little balder.
That's it. I'm looking forward to it for sure. So, I've seen your animals are incredible. I mean, so you must have stories upon stories upon stories. Do you have any plans for a book at all?
Yeah. And I hate to admit it, but I actually wrote about 3/4 of a book. And then as I'm going through it, I looked at it and it just wasn't very good. And okay, I need to work on my craft. So I started spending more time reading books and paying attention to how books are written. And yeah, I do plan on at some point setting down and making a real book, and hopefully it's better than my first attempt.
Have you read any of E. Donnell Thomas's books?
Yes.
They're very well written.
Yeah, that's what you have to do if you want to be a good writer. You have to read, and not just read good writing, but you have to pay attention to it.
Right, learn from it.
Notes. Yeah, and that's what I've been working on. And I listen to ebooks or podcasts all day long, and I did 214 books last year, and I average a little over 200 every year, because if I'm not talking to somebody or watching television, which isn't much, I have my earbuds in and I'm listening to either a book or a podcast all day long.
You told me today you were listening to my podcast with Jim Eckhout.
Yep. Trying to get caught up on some of them to make sure I'm prepared for this.
Yeah,
get used to your interview style.
They've gotten better the more they progressed into the YouTube thing. In the beginning, it started off as a kind of a stress reliever because my wife was going through some medical issues, and they were not good. But they've gotten better. I'm really enjoying it now. Just having the face-to-face thing is really where it's happening. Because it really it's more personal.
Yeah. And about a year ago, I saw something popped up about my first podcast I did with a guy, Jay Fuhrer, I think, out of Pennsylvania, after I got elected president of the Pope and Young Club. And I thought, oh, I'm going to listen to that again and see how I did. And I was really surprised that it didn't suck as bad as I thought it would, since it was my first one.
Well,
So
Jim,
but you learn something every time. It gets way better.
just so you know, I was a radio announcer in New York and in Annapolis, Maryland. And I got out of that profession years and I mean decades ago. And I don't even listen to my own podcasts. I don't. I don't edit them. I don't do anything. It's just off the cuff and we go. And people just send me feedback. Hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. And so far, so good. Knock
Yeah,
on wood, so to speak.
good.
So let's get into a serious topic here. How do you see the future of bow hunting, hunting in general, if you will, for the future?
That's just so tough.
Hmm.
When we were 30 years old, did you think we would have the opportunity we still have now at 65? I didn't think so. We've been under attack for, well, probably for 200 years, if you get right down to it, and we're still maintaining. So my hope is that the future is strong. And I think if there's going to be hunting at all, I think bow hunting will be the last thing to go, because it's low impact, it's quieter, you can do it without people noticing. Um, but I being president of the Pope and Young Club, that always talking about this and being interviewed, and not to get off topic, I remember we were looking at Zeiss Optics to be a corporate partner for Pope and Young Club, and we got a letter from the CEO of Zeiss, who I guess was German, wanted to know why bow hunting was even legal and how it was ethical. And
But there's
yeah,
bow
what
hunting
you
in
just did,
Germany.
what?
There's bow hunting in Germany.
Yeah, I know, but I took, it was a double take, and so I had to craft a response to it, and that was about my second or third year in as president. So I had done quite a bit of this already,
Hmm.
but my response was, we've done this for so long and it's become so efficient, we don't even consider that anybody would even ask that question. But we have to maintain fair chase, ethical hunting, bow hunting, especially. It has to be fair chase, and it has to be ethical, or we're just stepping on ourselves every time you turn around. And we have people say don't fight amongst yourself. Well, we
Sometimes it
have to have
happens.
limits. Fighting amongst ourselves and deciding what we want to do doesn't hurt us in the public eye. Whether we're talking about baiting or crossbows or, and what I've always gotten into was, we have limits. We have absolute limits that we won't give up. Jacklighting, we won't give that up. Poison arrows, we won't allow that to happen. Shooting an animal that's helpless in the mud or trap or swimming, we don't let that happen. We have to maintain that.
Ethical behavior. Yep.
Yeah, and then you get into the grayer areas of high fence and baiting and all of that other stuff. Electronics, drones, it's tough. And I'll be honest, I'm glad I am now off the board of the Pope and Young Club for 10 days. Got off March 1st. And I was always just so sick of the technological stuff. And it's just such a tough topic, because some people love it and some people hate it. And how do you compromise? It's a tough compromise, but compromise really has to be, is it fair or is it not? And really that's what it comes down to. And
Well,
fortunately we have partners like Boone and Crockett Club and other organizations that kind of stand with us when we make a decision. So as long as we're unified in those decisions, it usually comes out okay.
yeah, well, modern technology, I experienced it a couple of years ago. A friend of mine shot a buck and right in the middle of a 150-acre cornfield, standing corn. And we couldn't find that sucker forever. Uh, Poor blood trail. We used the drone, and that's how we found it, because it had heat registry on it. So it picked up a slight heat signature in the
Yeah.
corn. So
Yeah.
we were able to recover that buck. Thank God.
Yeah.
Did not go to waste. Now, last week in Mexico, we shot 3 javelinas, and 2 were consumed by coyotes within probably an hour.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah, they tore him up.
Yeah.
All we
There's a
found
lot of
was
coyotes.
all we
A lot of
found
coyotes.
was the head and the spinal column. So
Yeah.
thank God the third one was small enough and died fast enough. We ate it for dinner.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. You know, two of my deer in Mexico ended up leaving them overnight, and I got lucky, and the coyotes didn't find them.
Mhm.
Um, found them fairly early the next day. So
Now, were these
you
cow?
never know, though.
So I got to ask you a question. Are they called cow's deer or coos deer?
Well, the proper name is cow steer because
House.
it was named after a man, and he pronounced his name Couse.
Okay.
Um, but so many people call it coos deer. I even make the mistake, even as a Pope and Young guy that knows better. I
Mhm.
call them coos deer half the time because that's what everybody else
I
calls them.
know. I
But who
just had
cares?
to set the
Nobody really
record
cares.
straight what the proper enunciation was. And thank God you said that there was a guy
Yeah,
by that name. So that helps me. It helps everybody else that's listening and watching uh,
yeah,
for
yeah.
this. Set the record straight. Now, you have harvested some incredible animals, and I've just been enamored with your photos and your photography. I mean, elk, bear, deer, mule deer, recently a javelina. Now, you've been this year, I think you've been on 10 DIY hunts.
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, um, do you do a ton of research or do you know areas that have top shelf critters?
Well, a combination of both. I did a ton of research, in the past, and now I a lot of the stuff I do. Well, for instance, the Mexico hunt.
Hmm.
I've been going down there for 15, 16 years, 17 years, maybe. Oh nine, I think, was the first year, or 10. I don't know. It's been forever. And I'm on the fifth different ranch trying to find the best one possible. And we finally found one that hadn't been hunted in a while. And it was just crap. The roads were grown over. You're cutting like the guy in the rainforest with the machetes trying to get into the water
Yeah.
holes. But consequently, nobody had hunted for quite a few years. So the age structure was pretty good. And man, we've killed some great bucks. And it's you got to keep going year after year and hope it works. And because sooner or later we're going to lose it, something will happen, and we'll lose it. But it's just ongoing research. And I, even though I didn't have a penny when I was younger, I got in the preference points game basically when I moved to New Mexico. So I was 25 years old and started early. Um, and it was always a battle with my wife. Well, we'll get it all back, honey. Until you
Yeah.
don't.
Okay.
And she's over here laughing at me. But anyhow, even way back then, I'd call the Colorado Department of Game and Fish and ask if they would mail me, photocopy and mail me statistics, way before the internet, and found out that if you were a non-resident and you were going to apply, they would accommodate you way more than they would a resident. So
Hmm.
research started way back, and it hasn't changed. And there was a point in my life where I applied for at least 40 tags a year was kind of the maximum. And now I'm
Wow.
down to probably more like 30. A handful of them are once in a lifetime, which I've already taken. Some of them, I've already drawn and could theoretically get another tag, but the odds are so long they just don't apply anymore. Wyoming moose, I thought I'd get a second moose up there, but they cut the tags in half. And
That would be a Cyrus moose.
yeah, that's correct.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've taken a Cyrus moose in Wyoming and Colorado. Um, Taken a couple of Alaskan Yukon moose, and I've killed 2 mountain goats in Colorado. I've hunted bighorn sheep and missed more rams than I care to talk about in Colorado, and ended up killing a ewe to get the species.
Mhm.
What else? I've had great hunts in Utah, Arizona. I've had 2 good Arizona elk hunts. Great. Um, I got a bison in Utah, Henry Mountains. That was a fabulous hunt. Big elk in Utah in 2014. Great hunts in Wyoming. I used to have a ranch that a buddy and me found it in Wyoming. We started in '06 and hunted there almost every year for 12, 13 years. And then we lost it. And oh, that killed me. Um, So, and growing up in Kansas, and I had the land there. One of the best things I ever did was buy a lifetime license before I left. So I'm a lifetime resident in Kansas.
That's
And
awesome.
I kind of wish I'd have moved to a couple of different states and got that done right after I retired instead of now when I'm really thinking about it. Now I'm getting old enough. Is it really worth it?
Yeah, so
But
I'm from Baltimore, and well, not originally, but I spent 40 years in Maryland. So now I can't wait to apply for my first senior citizen license this year. I think it's like $15. I was like, oh yeah,
all right.
I
All
like
right.
that, you know.
Yep.
But there's perks to getting older, but you have to stay in shape. You have to stay
Yeah,
in
you
shape
do.
to hunt.
Yeah.
Like you can see the scope cut.
Yeah.
I'm always shooting. I'm always doing something, and it's like I'm always injuring myself. But this is what we do. If this is what we do, this is what we love.
Yeah.
Uh, is your wife still in the room with you?
Yeah. She's quilting. She,
Okay.
she's,
So
she's on the other side of the
I
room.
got a question for Mrs. Willems. You don't have to be on camera. Just answer the question. Do you love it
Okay.
when Jim's away hunting? What do you do? My wife goes on Amazon and goes nuts. So when I come home, there's boxes on the porch.
I'm a quilter, and I quilt and I quilt and I quilt and I quilt. So
Oh, God bless
I'm
you.
pretty content if I have fabric and a sewing machine nearby.
Yeah.
Oh, I really appreciate that artwork. I really do. I mean, my grandmother, my wife's grandmother, all quilted, and we have some beautiful pieces that stays in the family. We can't wait to, they will be handed down through the generations.
Oh, yeah, it is fantastic. She does wonderful work.
Thank you, Mrs. Willems.
Her name's Lisa. That was
Lisa,
Lisa.
thank you, Lisa.
She's a saint. She puts up with me. She's a saint.
Well, yeah, I think we both have wives that do the same thing. And I think that's the thing. It's funny. My wife is from Wisconsin, so she grew up in a bow hunting family. My second wife, almost 40 years. And so when we got together, I said, she goes, what do you want from me? I said, just be yourself and just let me bow hunt and don't question me about it. And boom, it's been fantastic journey ever since. And
All
she
right.
just whenever I harvest game, it's a party in the kitchen because I quarter everything up in the garage and then we debone everything in the kitchen, and we just have the game show network on and we're just packaging and grinding, and
Yeah.
we make it's a family affair.
Oh, same here. Yeah, we have the grinder and I have the smoker, and we grind it and smoke it, and we never buy meat. We have our entire life we've lived off of wild game.
Yep.
And tonight we get done here, we're going to have wild turkey and rice.
Excellent.
Trying to clean out the wild turkey, getting ready to shoot some more.
Yeah, I
So,
got venison chili waiting for me.
all right.
First year moving to Florida 4.5 years ago, we got hit with a hurricane. I was like, what the heck did we get into? And I did not have a generator, so I lost 300 pounds of game meat
Oh my goodness.
because of the 5 days of power outage. And you bet your bottom dollar, I bought a Generac generator the very next
Yeah.
week,
Yeah.
and it served me well. It has
Yeah.
served me well. So
Yeah.
we know
I have
what you.
one. I haven't had to use it, but I have one that all I got to do is flip a switch and plug it in,
There
turn
you
it
go.
on. So
There you
good
go.
to go.
So we know your favorite rig. It's your Bighorn there, the 56 incher. 52 pounds?
52 pound. Yeah.
50 pounds.
Yeah.
Are you shooting cedars or
Yeah, I
composites?
do. See, I shoot cedars. For 2 years, I was hunting Alaska so much between I was going to hunt black bear and Sitka blacktail, and it's always always wet. And I decided, I should try carbons. They're more consistent and yada yada yada. And so I shot carbons for 2 or 3 years,
Mhm.
and then I just didn't like it. I decided, you know what? I've never had a problem with cedar arrows warping while I'm hunting. They're finished really well. Feathers are tough. Boy, that's the bane of our existence is feathers and rain. And I do fletch up some arrows with trad veins on them. And
Mhm.
when I'm going to Alaska, I'm about half and half because your feathers get wet. There's nothing you can do about it. So yeah, cedar arrows. And I've always either shot a Magnus two blade because early on I shot Zwicky's,
Mhm.
but Mike Sohm Magnus, he was at Great Bend, Kansas, and I lived in Kansas, and got to know him basically right when he started up. So switched to the Magnus and shot the 1.25 glue on, but then about the last 10 years, I've pretty much switched over to the old Green Bears glue on and
Okay.
shoot the old bears with a bleeder. And boy, they've just been doing fantastic.
Right. They've killed game for decades. I mean, there's no,
Oh, yeah.
Do you use the bleeders?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've had bleeders break off on ribs and stuff, and I've cut myself.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
That's how they're designed.
Yeah.
That was the original design. They're light enough that they'll break off if you hit a bone. And yeah, I would like it if it was a more heavier, robust broadhead. But one thing I can say in I don't know, hundreds of animals, I've never lost an animal because I didn't get enough penetration, and I've never lost an animal because the broadhead didn't perform.
Right. I've lost animals from bad choices.
Just a bad shot.
Yeah.
Just a bad shot.
Yeah. I'm shooting 170 grain Zwicky, the wide one, the Delta.
Yeah, the Delta. Yeah.
Yeah,
I shot those for quite a few years, and they were great until I switched over to the Magnus.
Yeah, they're deadly. A lot of guys are going.
Mike Solm was great. I about every other year I'd take my handful of bent or broken tip Magnus and hand them to me, and he'd just hand me new ones. So
yeah, that's great customer service. Can't beat that. So for a young and upcoming bow hunter, what advice would you give them in their growth within the sport?
Well, we kind of touched on that, and advice is get involved.
Right. Get involved.
Yeah. And meet people who have done it before, and don't be shy about it. Just walk up to people and start talking, because you know how it was when you were younger. Everybody was willing to share. You just had to be brave enough to walk up and ask the questions.
Yeah,
and sometimes
exactly.
the advice you got was total shit, but you kind of work through that and you move on.
When I was younger, I mean, I had to go to the library and Xerox instructions on how to gut a deer. So when I shot my first deer on my first solo hunt by myself, I had to break out these instructions, and I'm sitting there with Xerox copies next to a dead deer, and I made a mess out of this thing, but I mean, I got it done. But ever since, well, look, I'm pushing 51 years now bow hunting. I think I've learned a thing or two, but I'm always learning. I mean, from guys like you, guys like Gene and Barry. I mean, Gene sends me emails every week about stuff, just to converse about it, asking for my opinion or just sharing with me. And it's like, wow, that's cool.
He's one of those guys that's always thinking. He's got a nonstop mind. So
last year or the year before, he got the bright idea of taking, you know how like the mirrors you could buy at like Walmart that are like lengthwise, you put them in your bathroom?
Yeah, yeah.
He started strapping them to trees.
Yeah, I heard him talking about that.
Yeah, how bears would react to it, and they would attack themselves. It was crazy. Yeah. I've got videos. I'm like, oh my God. He sent me videos of black bears performing cannibalism.
Oh, I believe that. Yeah.
That's
insane. They eat each other. If a big bear can catch a smaller bear, he'll kill it, unless it's a female. Any male smaller than him, if he can catch it, he'll kill it.
So on these 10 hunts that you did this past year, tell us, what did you harvest?
So I start out with turkey, and I usually shoot turkeys in New Mexico and Kansas, but for some reason I didn't even get a tag in New Mexico. But I got, and it just kills me. They cut it back to one tag in Kansas, so I shot my one in Kansas, and then I always start August 1st hunting Sitka blacktail in Alaska. Most of the time I hunt Prince of Wales, and hunting the alpine. It's a tough hunt. You go in on a boat. I hunt with Bob Almeen, blacktail Bob. He's if you're going to hunt blacktails with somebody, he's the one to hunt with. So I'm going into his camp, and all of his buddies have gotten too old to go with him. So I never say no. So, and I'm still in really good shape. So he still takes me along. I haven't killed a buck up there in 3 years. But you could have killed bucks. It's just it's so hard to get in there. If you kill one, you basically lose 2 days.
Mhm.
And so I'm going for a big one. That is a true trophy hunt. And I missed a world record in there 2-3 years ago. Devastating. But anyhow, that's what kind of hunt it is. And Bob killed a world record in there this year. It hasn't been paneled yet, but it's huge. It's a huge buck, and he spotted it on the opening day and killed it on the 6th day. So it was a great hunt. So Sitka blacktail. I had a Utah antelope tag, burned 20 points for that, and the drought was so bad. The horn growth was pathetic, and there just weren't very many. And I saw a good one the first day, and another hunter spooked it, and then I waited around for it for 5 days, and then instead of hunting 96-degree weather, that last day it got up to 103, and I was hunting out of a tripod, at 103-degree weather, and one of the bucks that had come by twice before at the water hole, he came by, and I shot it. I couldn't take it anymore. And it was a nice mature buck, but he didn't make Pope and Young, and that's always my goal is if it doesn't make Pope and Young, I don't want to shoot it because I hunt so much. I don't have to fill the freezer, but that one I just gave in. And then I hunted black bear with one of my nephews in Colorado. He'd never hunted the mountains before, and spent 8 or 9 days with him, and he ended up getting a kind of a medium-sized bear. Got his first thing other than a whitetail, so he was excited. Then I had a New Mexico elk tag, kind of a third-tier unit, and it's not a great unit, but it has some good elk. Kind of the same problem there. The drought apparently pushed them off up into the high country, which wasn't in my unit, and ended up seeing 2 bulls that I would have shot and worked on them and just never made it work. Hunted the whole hunt, 10 days. And then I would go to Kansas. We have a house in Kansas. We own land in Kansas. So I get Lisa to go with me. She has her sewing machine in Kansas, so she takes all her fabric, and all of our family's in Kansas. So she gets to go, she sews, and then she hangs out with family, and then she goes to knitting groups and sewing groups and church groups. And so she keeps busy, and I hunt. And I ended up hunting whitetails 37 days this year. So because we own land in Kansas, and then I have a lease that 4 of us share just across the border in Nebraska that's 113 miles away. So I can, and then there's another piece of land that I can hunt. So I can theoretically kill three whitetail bucks between those 2 states.
Looking behind you, you've killed some monsters.
Oh my goodness. I've been so blessed. And that great big one I killed in 18, 20 inches bigger than anything you've seen in years.
What did that score? What did that score?
191 and 3/8 typical.
As a non-typical or a typical?
No, typical. Net.
Wow.
Typical.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And because that's him right there.
Because the Maryland record, I think, is 192 and 5/8.
Yeah.
Which, Maryland is a sleeper state.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Yeah. So this was number 3 in Kansas when I shot it.
Okay.
And the number 1 was 192, so it was just an inch bigger. But yeah, but my goal is to always try to find one that will net Boone and Crockett.
Mm-hmm.
And some years there's one around, some years there's not. But to run across one that's in the 190s, I remember getting a trail camera picture of it and told my brother, I said, "Man, I think he'll go 190, Dan." And he's like, "No, it can't be. That can't be. We just don't have deer that big." And son of a gun if he wasn't.
Yeah, I've seen some big hammers. I still hunt up north. I still travel. Here in Florida, there's nothing really to shake a stick at that I'm interested in. So I'm just here to exist. But up north, Midwest, I have land I can hunt in Wisconsin. There's some big, big deer to be had, but you have to put your homework in. You have to put the work in.
Yeah. Well, that's why we go about the 22nd of October and we stay till early December.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, I didn't kill my first buck until the 41st day of hunting.
Wow.
Yeah. Cause it was tough. But last year I spread it out. I killed 3 nice bucks. Just had a great year, fun year. Really wasn't after anything monstrous. I had some EHD 2 years ago. So, just picking out the mature bucks and and they all ended up, all three of them netted in the 140s, gross 150s, which are great deer. But for the properties I hunt, that was way off of normal. And then New Mexico, everything's a drawing here. And
Yeah.
I helped a guy get signed up for landowner deer tags close to my house. And so since I helped him get that signed up, he always gives me a deer voucher. So I apply for the whole unit, but then do the private land only as second choice, which is pretty much a guaranteed draw. So I ended up, I can hunt where I live, which is 5 acres. I haven't ever killed one here, but I could. But then this other guy has 80 acres and I hunt it. And I shot a nice 4x4 there in January. Had a real limited amount of time to hunt because it's January 1st to the 15th, and I was leaving for Mexico on the 8th. And so I decided I could hunt 4 days, and then I had to, work on getting stuff ready for Mexico. And so I got that buck, and then in Mexico I shot a mule deer and 2 nice cows bucks.
Now you've got some extraordinary hunts. Do you have a favorite hunting story that you can share?
Oh man, that's tough.
There's so many. There's so many.
Yeah,
Right.
I've hunted so many things. So
give me one from this year. Give me one from this year.
Okay. Well, I'll just go with the Mexico hunt. I told you a little bit about my antelope hunt where I about died. So Mexico, it was a tough year in Mexico. They got a ton of rain in October.
Yeah.
And actually, Mike and I were going to go in October. The season opens November 1st. It's like November 1st to February 15th, unless they've changed it. But a landowner can apply for an October tag. It's good for the month of October. And we've been trying to get early season tags because they're in velvet till November 1st. And our trail camera pictures down there show us that they're pretty consistent in October, but it's hot, man. It's 100+ degrees. But anyhow, we finally got two early season tags, and we were going to go mid-October. And it rained starting early October. It started raining. And then the week we were going to be there, it rained all week long, just flooded. And I think the biggest problem was there was so much green vegetation. Even in January, they didn't have to come to water like normal because nobody was having success. Even the outfitters, instead of 7 out of 8, they were getting 1 or 2 out of 8. And, not going to name names, but they're all having the same problem. And so we knew it was going to be tough. Our camera intel showed us it was tough, but there was still some deer coming in. You just had to, you had to tough it out. And if you're going to get a chance once a week, and you just better not blow that chance. And had a couple of hunters that probably should have killed something but didn't. I was real lucky. I got a mule deer, one we had on camera, about the 5th day. Nice, tall 4x3. And then the first group of hunters, we have 2 hunts. They're basically 8 days for the first hunt and 10 for the second hunt. And the first group of hunters left, and I'd killed a mule deer, and that was it. Nobody had even killed a javelina. And second group of hunters come in, and, it's getting a little better. It's, things are drying out, and we're seeing a few more deer, but seeing does and little bucks every day. And anyhow, about 18 days in, still that mule deer is the only one that's been killed, and a buck comes in for me, and there's 2 other guys hunting, and I'm giving them first choice. You guys hunt where you want, and then I'll take the third choice, right? Well, 8:30 in the morning, a big buck comes in, and I shot him, and I knew he was big, a cow's deer. And I, he's quartering on, so it wasn't a great shot. So I thought, I'll give him till after lunch and then go look for him. So I'm sitting there, and then something just told me, you need to get ready. This is a good morning. And son of a gun, if 2 hours later, a 5x5 come in, cow's deer, and smaller buck, but still a beautiful buck, and made a perfect shot on him. And he didn't go, he was 60 yards from the blind when he fell over, watched him die. So here I am, I have 3 deer down, and the other 5 hunters haven't taken a shot yet. So I don't know. God looks after me. I'm blessed. I'm lucky. I don't know what you got to say about it, but my word, it's been a great life. And one of the other hunters ended up killing a really good buck before we left. So 6 of us ended up getting $4, but I shot 3 of them, which kind of sucks when you're trying to talk people into going hunting with you. But everybody wants to come back, and
It happens.
next year it'll be a normal hunt. So
Mhm.
yeah, all fun, man.
So if you were to transport yourself back in time, where would you go and why?
Um, my inclination is to say, why would I go anywhere? But I've always been enthralled with the Lewis and Clark expedition, the Corps of Discovery back in the day, and just reading about what they saw that they had never seen before. Thomas Jefferson thought they might even find woolly mammoths or mastodons, and maybe the lost tribes of Israel, or for that, I don't understand why they thought they might find a water route, because water goes downhill. You think at some point you have to realize it's going to go down the other hill. But thinking about that, man, between the dysentery and the syphilis and all the other things they were dealing with, if I couldn't take a water purifier and a bottle of penicillin, I don't think I'd.
So I've always been enthralled with the Fred Bear era, the 59 Delta hunts. I'm a huge Fred Bear guy. That's where I would want to transport myself back in time. I mean, the year prior to my birth, which is 1960. So 59, I would like to go back as an 18, 19-year-old and just experience all that.
Yeah, and I've thought about that. But as a hunter, not very many people got to experience out-of-state hunting. That was a big, big deal. It was a great sacrifice if anybody went out of state, and very few people did it. And to be honest, I started bow hunting in 1979, and I hit my peak in the 90s and early 2000s, and I can't imagine it could have been much better than what I've had it.
No,
Really,
I mean, those were good times. I started in 74. I did not peak out until around 81, 82 when I killed my first deer. And then the rest of it was, I don't know. I didn't figure it out for a while because it's like, I never really had anybody teach me except my brother-in-law, and he didn't really know a lot. So until I met the Wenzels, and then they took me under their wing and they taught me everything I know. And what good mentors to have, right?
Oh man, no doubt. But my biggest problem early on was I was a terrible shot. I could shoot targets just fine, but then a big old buck or a bighorn ram, whatever, would walk in front of me, and I'd shoot over it, shoot over it.
Right.
And my word, people, if somebody asked me what you did for a living, I'd say, well, I shoot over deer. That's what I do for a living. But eventually, I guess a lot of it was I had more time, and I took more time, and I just kind of started over and closed it up, started shooting really close. And two things that really helped me that turned my shooting around was shooting close and getting more comfortable and shooting a clicker. I know that's kind of a clutch. And this year, I
shoot a clicker. I shoot one every day.
Yeah. But I'm convinced I can shoot without it this year. We'll see. But just starting over, shooting close, and really concentrating on the form and the shot, and don't snap shoot. You have to hold it for just a couple of seconds. And, if I can pick a spot and anchor and hold it, tell myself to slow down and pray a little bit just before I take the shot, that helps.
Yeah.
But if I can go through the whole process, I almost never miss. If I miss, it's because I snap shoot. And boy, I know better. And now I've got to the point where I can let down. If I pull back and I feel like I'm going to just let it go, I let down, take a breath, maybe two, and then start over again. And that helps immensely. Between that and the prayer.
Absolutely. I shot 3D this past weekend with a bunch of old timers, and I came out of the gate smoking. I blew these guys away, and I was snap shooting full. And I'm not a snap shooter. I go through a process, but for some reason, target panic got in my head. But I still snapshot, and I 10 ringed everything.
Yeah. And it's repetition. The older you get, you should get better. And as long as you don't let it get in your head.
Yeah. Well,
what is it saying? You got to do something 10,000 times to get good at it, or is it 10,000 hours? I don't remember which, but
yeah, it's probably
pretty
10,000
close on
times.
both
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah, for sure. So, Jim, what are your passions outside of bow hunting? Do you have any other hobbies?
Um,
You got to.
well, yeah, but not a lot. I fish some. I enjoy fishing. I like to walleye fish. I live in some really good trout fishing country, but I never got into it. So I like to fish for walleye, and I sometimes have to drive a little bit to do that. But being involved with the Pope and Young Club, that was a big deal. That took a lot of time, especially at the moment when I took it on. When we lost Kevin Heisey and we had that gap of all of that institutional knowledge gone overnight. That was almost a full-time job for me for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a little welding shop that I kept after I sold the business. I do a little bit of taxidermy work. I really enjoy that. I do half a dozen animals a year. In the welding shop, I build tree stands, tripods, brackets, all kinds of stuff. And between the land in Kansas and Nebraska, I probably have 60 homemade tree stands out right now. I just leave them out, and loose, and they're either chained on with a portable or strapped in with on a ladder. And I'll loosen the straps in the winter before I come home and readjust the chains on the lock-ons. And then I'll go back in the spring when I'm turkey hunting. I spend more time working on stands than I do turkeys.
Are you doing a lot of TIG welding?
It's MIG, all MIG welding.
MIG welding? Okay.
Wire feed welder. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So it works great with, 1 inch and 3/4 inch square tubing. And you really got into that. And then try to, as time goes on, you try to make the stands more comfortable and safer. And so I'll pull one down and bring it home and rebuild it, make it safer. But then, we have the property in Kansas. We spend quite a bit of time there. So I'm planting trees, cutting trees, burning CRP, food plots, mowing paths. That's part of my success on whitetail is just I spend so much time getting the property ready to try to get the deer to do what I want them to do instead of doing what they want to do. And you can do that. You create paths, you block paths, even as little as just taking a backpack sprayer and spraying the brush from point A to point B, 10 yards in front of your stand. As soon as that brush dries, there's a deer trail there.
Right.
It's amazing. They'll show up in 2 weeks. And I found that out. I was spraying poison ivy to get to my stand. And then, come back in the fall and, well, there's a trail going right to my stand and you don't want to walk down the deer trail. So I realized, well, we got to do two things. You got to create a trail for the deer and create a trail for yourself. So it's
a matter of hunting smarter.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Jim, we're at an hour and I want to thank you so much on behalf of the Drop Time Traditions podcast for spending time with us, for coming on as a guest. And it's been a wonderful time. I really,
it's always a pleasure.
Yeah. So I will see you in a couple of days.
Yeah. Yeah. Shoot. We leave Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday
Well, I land about 6:30 in the evening in Indy, and the hotel says they got a shuttle that goes right to the hotel. So
yeah,
I told my wife, I said, we're just going right to dinner as soon as we get there, and looking forward to that.
Yeah. We'll get there at about 2:30. And a real quick story. Maybe somebody's going to hear this. Is this going to post before we leave?
No, this will post next Tuesday. I'm always a week behind because I'm hunting. I'm always everywhere. So I try
we'll see how it goes. So Danny and I went to the first convention in '86 in Ohio. I don't remember the town. It was near Columbus, I believe, but it was I don't know. But so we went to the first one, and he entered a picture of him with a mule deer that he killed. We positioned the deer in front of an old wooden wheeled wagon on an old farmstead, and he entered the picture that I took. And I always give him hell about this, but he entered the picture and he won an Assenheimer bow for winning the photo contest. And he maybe shot 3 arrows out of it, and then just put it in the gun safe and forgot about it. Well, he's donating it to PBS 50 years later.
Wow.
And I don't know what they're going to do with it. They're going to auction it or raffle it or something, but it's pretty cool. You know, they don't make those anymore. And I kind of wish he'd never shot it, but he had to shoot it, you know, to see if he wanted to hunt with it. And
3 times is nothing.
like
It's as brand new. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a good time. My wife's excited. I'm excited for her. It's just a thing we do. And so, hey, folks who are listening or watching, please subscribe, like, and share. These help me immensely. But on behalf of the Drop Time Traditions podcast, I'm going to end this here. I'm going to get me some venison chili.
All righty.
So thanks, Jim. Have a good night.
Thank you, Rich.
Good night, Lisa.
Good night.
All right. Take care.
Hey, real quick before you go.
Yeah.
You say, please like and share. I haven't ever figured out how to like and share on Spotify. Well, maybe share, but how do you?
Well, you can share, but this is going to be on YouTube.
Okay.
So when you're on YouTube, just Google or even just go to YouTube, the Drop Time Traditions podcast, and you can actually watch these things. And then there's right below and the bottom, there will be a section that says subscribe and like with a thumbs up. So that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. And see, I always do Spotify. And I don't know. I just got used to it. For one, you can speed it up to 1.5. And then it just automatically goes to the next one, and I don't have to keep taking my phone out.
And I just did this because everybody else is on, YouTube. So I said, okay, well, I had this for like 120 episodes on Spotify. So now I'm doing both platforms for those that like a visual and for those that like a audio. So
is subscribing to YouTube more beneficial to you than?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
All right.
All right, Jim. I'll see you probably Thursday or Friday.
Yep. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, we get there at 2:30 in the afternoon. So.
All right. So I'll see you at some point. All right, brother. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Take care. Goodbye, folks.